And Chris Simons joins me in the studio. He's brought some guests today. How are you, Chris?
Morning, Shane.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about today, and we've actually assembled a panel because we are going to talk about the life and times of being an apprentice jockey and also making the transition through the jockey ranks. Our special guests with us today, Des O'Keefe, the CEO of the Victorian Jockeys Association. How are you, Des?
Good, thanks, Shane.
Ron Hall, who is the Jockey Wellbeing and Safety Officer, if I get that out, for Racing Victoria. How are you, Ron?
Morning, Shane.
And John Dedham, the Apprentice Jockey Coach, again for Racing Victoria. John, good morning.
Good morning, Shane.
All right, Chris, I'll start with you. When we started this conversation last week in the segment when we were talking about the life and times of being an apprentice jockey, and I know that Racing Victoria have started the discussion internally, and it's something that they will make sure that they go through all the processes along the way to get it right. But you're very keen to make sure that we're doing everything we can to guarantee that an apprentice jockey's got every opportunity available to make a success of their chosen career.
Definitely, and it's a hard industry to get involved in at the best of times, and you probably notice a lot of apprentices coming through now have a relation that is either a trainer or a jockey, and therefore that's how they get into the industry. But I think we lack kids coming through that aren't from a racing background, and I think we need to make it more appealing to them to come forward to be involved in our industry.
Des, we've seen a dramatic shift, particularly in the last 20 years, about, it's a loose term, but there seems to be a more professional approach to making sure our jockeys are looked after virtually from day one.
Shane, the whole scope of the apprenticeship system's changed dramatically in that time. There's no doubt about that. I think Racing Victoria have improved the system a lot. The young people coming through the system come out of it a far more better finished product. But I think there are also some negatives over the last 20 years, and that is 20 years ago, the role of a trainer as an employer of an apprentice, the demands on the trainers were far less onerous than they are today. Running a training business today carries so many obligations, and I think that these days trainers are less able to provide the support, training and career guidance to apprentices than they were 20 years ago. So I think that while there has been some good improvements, there have also been some real negatives as well.
You make a good point there, because we go back through the history of riding in Australia. A lot of the apprentice-trainer relationship was very much like a father-son relationship or father-daughter relationship, very much using them as a mentor along the way too.
It was, but I think these days, obviously times have changed and young people don't tend to live with their employer. They don't tend to live with the trainer. They are pretty well unaccountable away from the racecourse. They run their own race. Racing Victoria try to give them the guidance, as do a number of trainers, and I don't want to decry in any way the efforts of the trainers, but all in all, I think 2013 would be a fantastic year for a significant review and some changes.
Ron, can I ask you your opinion? What is the process like? And just explain to the audience how things now work in trying to get the right person through the apprenticeship ranks. When do you start looking for the person with the right credentials, so to speak, to become an apprentice jockey?
So the process is they fill out an expression of interest. So we get an expression of interest comes through to Racing Victoria. They're then brought into an interview process, and then they go through a screening process where they go to Exercise Research Australia. Out of the 35 applicants we had last year, we screened down to 10 applicants. So we're looking for the best possible applicant that we can get.
And what are some of the attributes that you try and look for to give you an idea that this person will be able to make a success of getting through, first of all, the apprenticeship, but second of all, then going on and actually having a lengthy career? Because I suppose an extension of that, I mean, once upon a time people would say, well, this guy is relatively, short, lightweight.
Yeah. So it's changed from someone coming in being the right weight and your father was a jockey to your education, your fitness levels, your dedication that we think that they'll put into their career. So it makes it, we're looking for a better product at the other end.
John, how do you find a lot of the kids coming through the apprenticeship at the moment? We can talk about, we've got the intake of first-year apprentices. I know I've been speaking to quite a few of them along their journey so far this year. But from previous years, have you seen a shift in the type of person that's coming through?
Yes, definitely, Shane. The quality that's coming through now, after the screening process that we go through, we're finding the kids coming through are really dedicated to the job, are well-rounded, and really 100% want to be jockeys. The hardest part that we're sort of trying to find with the boys is actually having them the right size. We're struggling with the boys in that case, and over the last 2 years we've actually had a 50-50 split in the class of males and females, and the boys come in at 15, 16 and they're 4 foot high, and then next thing they're 6 foot high when they're 18, 19. So we're finding that's probably a difficult part of the apprenticeship at the moment.
Des, off that, we've spoken previously about this on the program. I mean, do we need to start looking further afield to try and get the right apprentice jockey then? If we're seeing that societal shift where people are now automatically bigger, are we doing enough to make sure that we're getting naturally lighter and smaller people into the game?
There are certainly many types of people in Australia now, or many nationalities of people is the right word, Shane, in Australia now who are ideally suited to be jockeys. Many of them don't have any idea that there are races on at Flemington on Saturday, let alone an interest in participating in them, and that is a major effort that the industry has to do to try and get out there and sell that. Now that's in place, but the success of that's yet to really come through. We only need, as John and Ron have said, we only need 10 a year to come through. It shouldn't be that hard, but it's great, I think, that we're getting the right 10, like having met those first years this year. You wouldn't meet a more impressive group of 10 people. As far as size and that goes, time will tell, but as people to start off with in our industry, they're great people, as you've heard on with so many of them on the show.
Chris,